cannot completely discuss or analyze African history without mentioning the introduction of the two major foreign or external religions into Africa. These religions were Islam and Christianity. The introduction of these religions into African cultural existence brought a lot of changes in the cultural reality of Africa or African communities. Well, these two religions did not enter the same time. Islam was the first to be introduced into Africa, and a good major part of entrance of Islam into Africa can be said to be through North Africa. With the introduction of Islam from the Arab world to the North African region, the religion was pushed or transmitted towards the West African sub-region. Well, a lot of analysts have tried to look at the two religions as regards their introduction and as well their performance in Africa. If you look at the West African region, the North Africa and West African region, you understand that Islam tend to have made more gains than Christianity. Well, the Southern African area may not really it can be said to be the same thing. In the Southern African area, Christianity gained some grounds. I think also in the East African side, Islam also made some gains. There are some factors that tend to encourage this. Let us see how to first analyze the West African region. Now, with the introduction of Islam into North Africa and the dissemination of Islamic religion towards West Africa, some factors encouraged this. But let's look at the analysis of these two religions and factors that encouraged them. One major factor that helped Islamic introduction was what I may call acculturation. Acculturation in the sense that those that brought Islam or the people that were influencing the spread of Islam did not go about demonizing or discrediting African cultural values. This worked very well in West Africa. The introduction of Islam, for instance, did not go against the practice of polygamy, which is known in Africa, even before the introduction of any of those religions. Then, in the area of slavery, these people, the introduction of Islam made it very clear that a Muslim will be wrong to enslave another Muslim. Now, this, although well in practice, it may not really be said to have been perfected effectively or in 100% capacity, but in some areas, this was the order of the day. Rather, Muslims took slaves from non-Muslim areas or communities. Now, the next one was taxation. But before I go to the taxation, this cannot really be said about the introduction of Christianity. Most of the slave merchants that were of European origin were Christians, and they basically didn't care whether somebody in the African region has converted to Christianity or not. Slaves were gotten, purchased, and transmitted to the New World. That a slave converted to Christianity does not even guarantee, or was not able to guarantee, his or her freedom. Now the next one was taxation. In most of the areas where Islam were introduced, Muslims were made, or those that converted to Islam, were made to pay less taxes. Taxes were structured based on Islamic requirements or Islamic principles. But the same thing could not be said for those that did not convert to Islam. So this made a lot of persons to convert to Islam. It is being said that Islam is more of a way of life than even a religion. With the introduction of Islam, you see that people that actually looked at some of these, the people bringing this religion to them, could not differentiate between the concept of preaching to them and the concept of life practice. Most of them took interest in Islam because of the activities or actions of the Muslims that they saw within them. A very important area, or a very important factor or thing that encouraged the introduction of Islam in Africa, both North Africa and West Africa, and also some parts of East Africa, was the trans-Saharan trade. Most Muslims from North Africa, some Muslims from North Africa, and some from the Arab world came to do business up to the point of West Africa. And some of the persons they met in West Africa took interest in their way of life, their cultural values, their way of dressing, the way they carried out Islamic tenets and Islamic practices. For instance, praying 5 times a day, and how sincere some of them were, made some of these West Africans to take interest on this religion. Now, if you look at some of the kingdoms or empires that were established within the West African sub-region, that at the time had contact with Islam, or that later integrated Islam as their as their state religion, the earliest introduction of Islam was mainly by interaction of some of these merchants. Sometimes, because of the activities of these merchants, some leaders in these areas decided to convert to Islam. Another point was that Islam helped in uplifting the status of some of these kings. The introduction of Islamic principles or Islamic political structures in some of these areas helped to give more powers, more influence to some of the kings within this West African sub-region. Well, going to the Christian capacity, the colonial administrations, which were made up of Christians in Africa, did not guarantee the concept of less taxes for Christians. When you even look at the case of South Africa, where there was an apartheid structure, where the Dutch Reformist Church was established, instead of even helping to curb this apartheid or segregation policies, the Dutch Reformist Church even encouraged and brought in theological backup to the apartheid structure in South Africa. Well, along the line, towards the later end, they later learned their lessons, but they could not separate that. Well, there are some religious organizations that really helped But that was mainly on the area of the abolition of slave trade. Something like the Quakers. The Quaker Islamic regional Christian religious organization played a very important role. Now the next one was that Islam, the introduction of Islam helped in creating some very good relationship or external relationship for some of the kingdoms in Africa, mainly in the West African sub-region. And this encouraged some of them, or this helped some of them to acquire firearms or acquire modern weapons. Like in the case of Idris Aloma, we've also seen the Askia the Great of Songhai. We've also seen the case of Mansa Musa of Mali. So the introduction of Islam really helped, and also the adoption of Islam as the state religion helped or encouraged this. Now let's look at another thing. Now, as also the way of life, the introduction of Islam tried to provide solutions to the people, practical life solutions to the people. For instance, the concept of witchcraftry and evil practices. Well, some Islamic diviners tend to create solution to it. Well, it is not in my analysis to start looking at whether these solutions they provide or they brought worked or not. For instance, some of them were able to provide physical things or materials that they believe had extraordinary power in order that can neutralize evil forces. Well, being a practical thing, this was adopted and taken serious by the people. Well, there was another area, the concept of waging of war. The Islamized states had it as their major duty to convert other communities or their neighbors by any means possible, including waging war or including violent means. We have seen also the cases of jihadism or jihadist activities, like in the area of the Sokoto Caliphate. The next one was that Islam worked hand in hand with trading, mainly the trans-Saharan trade. I think I've made a little discussion about that. Most of the merchants from North Africa helped in introducing Islam to West Africa. Did so. They were merchants and they did business through the trans-Saharan trade route. Another factor that helped was the nomadic people. Like the Berbers and the Fulani. Most of these nomads were Muslims. And as they are moving down towards the West African region, most of them were able to gain some converts. A very prominent among them was Ottoman Danfodio. He was a Muslim, and upon getting to what area noted as northern Nigeria, his religious activities helped him to gain a lot of followers, with which at a later time he used them to carry out jihad in most areas in North Africa. Well, if you look at this, you see some level of contrast with the concept of Christianity. Most Africans find it difficult to distinguish between the missionaries and the colonial administrators that were basically exploiting African territories. Well, this did not really encourage the speedy spread of Islam. There was as well the earliest issues that were really that the early Christian missionaries went through. Most of them we were really not really faring so well upon getting in contact with African tropical diseases, mainly malaria. There was an expedition in the area of Nigeria whereby over 145 Europeans and some freed slaves decided to make a missionary activity towards the hinterland of Africa. That within a very short distance, almost 45 of them died of malaria, and a good number of them were down with this health challenge, that most of them had to return back. The major impact on when the Christian missionaries recorded success mainly was when they decided to make use of free slaves. Then, like in the case of Samuel Ajayi Crowther and others, Ajayi Crowther played a very important role in the introduction and the strengthening of the Anglican mission, called mainly the CMS, the Christian Missionary Society, in parts of what is known today as Nigeria. The introduction of free slaves helped because Africans started seeing them actually as their own brothers, and then started listening to them. And these people knew how to use local language and knew the culture of Africans, and knew also how to approach Africans and convince them to take this religious activity very serious. Well, in all analysis, the introduction of Islamic religion was a bit easier when compared to the introduction of Christianity in Africa. Please, if you are watching us for the very first time, subscribe to our channel. Help us to share our content so that it will get to other persons. Thank you for still being part of this channel.